Hello, America. I'm Mark Levin, and this is Life, Liberty, and Levin Sunday. Thank you for being here. You know, I try to do this show in a way that reflects how I think, how I approach events, and so forth. And so I try to provide you with information you may not otherwise have or have access to. So I'm not going to just go through a conga line of guests. I'm not just going to do headlines. I want to dig deeply with you. And I think that's why you come to this program on the weekends. And tonight will be no different. There is something going on with Obama, Biden, the Democrats, and the way they run foreign policy. It's mostly done at a superficial level, if done at all, in terms of examining it and discussing it. So I want to dig much further into this because it's affecting peace versus war and our survivability. It's a complete ideology that is an ideology that endangers us as a country and a superpower. So let me start with a piece in Tablet by Michael Doran and Tony Badran. What is going on in the Middle East? What is going on with Iran? Why do we have an administration that harbors Iranians who infiltrate and who are given classified positions at the highest level of our government? Why are we literally funding and allowing the funding of our enemies in the Middle East, starting with Iran and the Palestinian terrorists? I mean, do these people hate America so much that they're willing to fund our enemies? I think this will help us understand a little bit better. Among other things, what Doran and others write here is, on April 2, 2021, Malley gave an interview to PBS that raised eyebrows in Jerusalem, Riyadh, and in Congress. This guy, Malley, he was the head envoy for Obama and then Biden with Iran. Why would they pick him, and who is he? Ahead of nuclear talks in Vienna, where the Europeans were about to host indirect negotiations between Biden officials and Iranian representatives about resurrecting that Obama deal, Malley expressed an eagerness to lift American sanctions on Iran and ensure, quote, that Iran enjoys the benefits that it was supposed to enjoy after the deal. Trump killed the deal. Peace broke out. Biden comes in. Even before he's sworn in, they send the messages to the enemy. We're going back to Obama. May 1 statement by Abbas Akhache, Iran's lead negotiator in Vienna, said the American negotiators, he claimed, had already agreed in principle to remove sanctions on Iran's energy sector. We see what that's done. Automotive industry, financial services, banking industry, and ports, to eliminate, in other words, all of the most significant economic sanctions ever imposed on Iran. And they did it. And they told them they were going to do it. And they did it fast, and they got nothing in return. But even the Israelis have yet to absorb the full scope and magnitude of Biden's accommodation of Iran. Remember, this is written in 2021. The problem is not that Sullivan, our national security advisor, and Blinken, the Secretary of State, are failing to restrain Malley, but they are marching in lockstep with him. A consensus reigns inside the Biden administration, not just on the Obama nuclear deal, but on every big question of Middle East strategy. Everyone from the president, that is Biden, on down agrees about the need to complete what Obama started, which means that the worst is yet to come. And what does it mean? Improving relations with Iran, a terror state. This project to create a new Middle Eastern order, so that's their project. Just like they want to re-engineer American society, fundamentally transform it, they claim that they can do it in the Middle East too. Now spans 2 presidential administrations. And so he calls this project the realignment. That it should fall to us at this late date to name a project on which many talented people have been working for the better part of a decade is more than a little odd. Typically, presidents launch initiatives as grand as this one with a major address, and they further embroider their vision with dozens of smaller speeches and interviews. One searches in vain for Obama's speech of a new order in the Middle East, or for that matter, Biden. Obama, it seems clear, felt his project would advance best with stealth and misdirection, not aggressive salesmanship. Biden, while keeping Obama's second-term foreign policy team nearly intact, is using the same playbook. He's been lying and lying and lying to us, Biden, about how he's taking on Iran and how he's supporting Israel. He and his aides recognize that confusion about the ultimate goal quote unquote, makes achieving it easier. That is, by lying and deceiving we, the people. Indeed, confusion is the realignment's best friend. The bargaining between Washington and Tehran that started the minute the administration took office, even before the Vienna negotiations began in April, messages were winging their way from Tehran to Washington through intermediaries who interceded with ideas about how the U.S. could relax sanctions without formally lifting them. And those sanctions have not been formally lifted, and they will not enforce them to this day, right now. As a result, Sullivan and Blinken delivered documents to Tehran, and lots of them. To give just a few examples, the Biden administration dropped American objections to a $5 billion International Monetary Fund loan to Iran. It rescinded the Trump-era policy at the UN, which had triggered the so-called snapback mechanism, a move to reimpose international sanctions on Iran for its violations of the deal. It released frozen Iranian oil funds in South Korea, Iraq, and Oman, and now you know the spigot is wide open. The realignment, you see. Another word is appeasement. What's this realignment all about? Well, I've been thinking about this. The Biden, Blinken, Obama, Sullivan ideology and doctrine is this, unstated, but now stated by me. Multilateral and international institutions. In other words, weaken the United States' central role, core power, superpower status. We're just another player among many players. So you have to weaken our power and empower those we're negotiating with or those in a region to bring them up pretty much parity. Now that is outrageous, particularly with terrorist regimes or China or Russia or what have you. So you reduce America's superpower role. U.S. power must be balanced by the power of other countries. This is their view. That is a view out of the 1950s, the hard left in America. There's nothing new about it, but it is disastrous. And so this is what leftists believe today. But there's another problem we have. Those of us who believe in a foreign policy that should be based on prudence, that is, we're not ideological about it, we're not interventionists in every situation, but on the other hand, we don't believe in sitting on our hands in every situation unless Kansas itself is hit by a nuclear bomb. That's insane. So this is essentially isolationism. And this is backed by these so-called populists. It's not new. That was what took place prior to the attack in World War II on the United States at Pearl Harbor. And it came under the nomenclature of America First, by the way, and that's the 1930s. While Hitler was building up and Tojo was building up, Mussolini was building up, many of our allies were under attack, Britain was directly under attack, begging for help. No. We don't want to get involved in that war. Well, it's a funny thing. Our enemies are not isolationists, and they will do whatever they have to do to advance their insane goals. So this is based on basically the unwillingness of the Bush administration, when we went to war in Afghanistan, to go to war to win a war. So it went on and on and on. And people cannot support these so-called forever wars, and they don't. They didn't really want to actually defeat the enemy. And we had all this talk about not harming civilians as well. But even worse was the so-called democracy project in the Middle East. You're talking about terrorist states. Or you're talking about third world countries that are led by monarchs and dictators. And you know, the democracy project, as I think about it, wasn't all that dissimilar from what Jimmy Carter did to the Shah of Iran. He supported his being dethroned, and then we got this regime in Iran. But both of these ideologies are based essentially on appeasement. They're not based on prudence. Prudence would say, okay, this enemy needs to be treated this way, this enemy needs to be treated this way, we can deal with economic sanctions on this one we need to have surrogates who help us fight them, we may have to get directly involved in this. That's prudence, using judgment. If you're an isolationist, call it populism, call it America First, you're not America First, and you're not prudent. And certainly the Biden-Obama ideologies are completely destructive. So we have this confluence of ideologies taking place in our country right now. And it's a serious problem. I want to get into more about Tony Blinken and this guy Malley, who've been running our foreign policy behind the scenes pretty much. This is a piece by Martin Peretz. Martin Peretz is the former editor-in-chief and owner of The New Republic, which is a liberal publication. It's become rather left-wing over the years. Peretz was considered sort of a left-of-center liberal and a Harvard professor. And in part, he writes, in lieu of asserting himself, the Secretary of State has approved the reopening of nuclear talks a few years back with Iran and outsourced them to Robert Malley, whom he appointed or allowed to be appointed U.S. Special Envoy to that country. Blinken's reliance on Malley and Malley's own history of finding any opportunity to engage with groups and countries that demonstrably align themselves against American interests point to a large lacuna so far in the otherwise sober vision Blinken has laid out. This internationalist vision, which I don't think is sober, I think it's destructive, but nonetheless. He says it's worth noting here that Malley, besides being an architect of Obama's Iran deal and a longtime proponent of outreach to Iran and Hamas, is a childhood friend of Blinken's. The two grew up together in Paris. Malley is the son of a European-style Jewish communist with anti-imperialist politics and links to Yasser Arafat and Fidel Castro. This is the guy who was our envoy. You believe this? The assignment of Malley, who when he's out of government runs his inherited anti-imperialist priorities through dogmatic internationalists like George Soros, for whom the idea of a national interest is inherently suspect, shows that Blinken hasn't looked very hard at the reality of Iran's actions on the ground or paid much attention to the recent history of attempted rapprochements with the regime, especially Malley's. Soros has not been mentioned in the debate over Malley's appointment, but he should be. No one can claim that Malley's proximity to an ideologically driven billionaire who funds a multinational activist NGO empire and has real interest in international decision-making, currency, and oil markets is irrelevant or an unfit subject of discussion. Something more than childhood chummies is therefore at work with Blinken when he sends an actor with Malley's track record out to negotiate with a state that is openly allying with America's main strategic rival. At root, it means that there exists some level of underlying tolerance for a version of what Malley espoused. Engagement, no matter the circumstances. Engagement, no matter the circumstances, regardless of actual present-day human misery and oppression in places like Syria, and even if it strengthens Iran's strategic ally in Beijing, by turning the means of international coalition building and decision-making into a political end. Blinken risks abetting Malley's worst instincts rather than checking them, as some moderate and mainstream congressional Democrats had openly hoped. Malley's preferred policy can be summed up in a single word: realignment. Realignment toward Iran and away from America's traditional allies in Israel and the Gulf. It is in that context that other moves in Malley's regional purview can be understood. He's downgrading the Abraham Accords, amping up support for the YPG, delisting the Houthis as sponsors of terrorism as they starve Yemen's civilian population and launch missiles into Saudi cities, sending cash to Palestinian officials to circumvent the Taylor Force Pay for Slay Act, reinstituting U.S. financial support for UNRWA, the UN group that is sending money to Hamas. The Palestinian Aid Organization with $150 million, a symbolic move that implicitly shifts the onus for peace from Hamas and the Palestinian Authority to Israel. In any case, sometimes engagement is the wrong approach because it weakens America's strategic and moral imperatives and keeps policymakers from seeing the forest for the trees. Iran is the place to start the practice of isolation sooner rather than later. This is the ideology. Appeasement at all costs, no matter who the enemy is, no matter what their mission is. All enemies are the same. That is, we are the problem. The United States, our power, our former imperialism, quote unquote, and colonialism, quote unquote. It's American history that's the problem. We're a superpower. We should cease being a superpower. We need to engage our enemies and everybody as an equal. And the enemy sees this. They see stupid written all over it. And now you know Biden, Blinken, Sullivan, Malley, and all the rest. This is their unstated doctrine. It is the Obama doctrine. It's surrender.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.